Greetings! In this video I'll be painting an Assault Intercessor of the Storm Giants chapter. This was a request from one of you guys, so if you have a suggestion let me know and I might give it a go. This model is a standard Assault Intercessor, with no changes except for the Pauldron. Like most of my videos, I've edited a Pauldron I found online with a chapter armourial, 3D printed that. Check the video description if you want more information about it. I've primed the model black through my airbrush, but a rattle can spray primer works just as well. The Storm Giants are painted in an off-white colour. It's kind of a yellowy green tan, not a yellowy brown tan if that makes sense. With this in mind I used Ionrach skin as a base coat. I thinned this with a tiny bit of water. It's already pretty thin but I wanted to get the smoothest finish I could. It took about 6 coats for this, but once those were done it looked pretty good. I prefer doing more thin coats at this stage, rather than trying to prime with a lighter colour through my airbrush, as that takes this many coats as well. A simple dry brush of Deepkin flesh was applied after the base coat. This colour is a tiny bit brighter, though it does reduce the contrast a bit. I went back in with Ionrach skin to clean up some of the dry brush work. This consisted of painting near edges to form some sharper edge highlights, and going over some of the smoother panels to bring back the colour. With the armour done for now, I switched to Abaddon black and painted in the undersuit and cabling. The Storm Giants are seen with red weapon casings, as well as various red bits on their armour. I used Mephiston red for this, applying 2 thinned coats to keep a smoother appearance. Both the chainsword and heavy bolt pistol, as well as the Imperialis, the right shoulder pad, the armourial, and the eye lenses were painted with Mephiston red. I made a fairly big mess of the eyes, but no matter, that can be resolved easily later. To highlight the red I decided to try Wazdakka red. This is a slightly more pinky red, instead of the more orange reds I typically use. I applied this over the edges as well as layering the Pauldron. Now for the leather. Fairly simple here, starting with a base coat of Rhinox hide over the holster and belt. To highlight I use Skrag brown, trying to do some scratches and cuts, focusing on the edges but also adding some over the flat surfaces just to break it up a bit. I followed that with a finer application of Deathclaw brown, the same method as before, just keeping it smaller. Back to the red, I switched to Wild Rider red and applied a highlight in the eye lenses. I also went over some of the more prominent red edges too, trying to see if Wild Rider red can work with Wazdakka red. Now to clean up that mistake on the helmet, I used Deepkin flesh here, and simply painted over the mistake. The front of the helmet is fairly light already, so it works out fine, without needing to go back to Ionrach skin. For the silver details I used Iron Warriors, wanting to use this darker metallic to keep focus on the bone and red colours. This was applied over the chainsword, the heavy bolt pistol, the holster cap, and the power pack details. Off camera I applied an assault tactical marking and squad numeral transfer. You can check out some of my earlier videos to see how I did that. With the decal set and cured, I brought out an enamel pin wash and applied that all over the model. I tried to keep it thin, not wanting to stain the model too much. I had to remove the pooling in the corners a few times. It wasn't a perfect job. I was considering leaving the model there. It looks alright as is, but I wanted to increase the weathering, give it some heavy chipping. Using Rhinox hide I applied some tiny dots and scratches all over the model. This is a fairly time consuming process, but I find it fun, so no loss there. The grimy finish from the enamel complements the chips. You could put the enamel on first like I did, or afterwards if you wanted to tone down the chips a little. Either way I think it looks pretty cool. Done with the chipping, the mini itself is now complete, so I applied my usual basing method off camera, but this time I'm using AK's Real Colour acrylic markers to do the base rim. It goes on smooth, though it needs 2 coats. It's much easier and faster than a brush, and you're less likely to go over the edge and hit some of the rocks of the marker tip. After using the marker, the entire thing was given an ultramatte varnish. And here we have it, an Assault Intercessor of the Storm Giants chapter. This was a very quick scheme to do, being a simple tan with red accents. As a result, I felt the need to add some additional character in the form of weathering, and experimenting with a different tone of red than I normally use. I think the finished product looks great, and would be super easy to replicate over a large army. The most time consuming process would be the weathering, of course. If I were painting an army like this for myself, I'd airbrush the bone colour over a bunch of minis at the same time, or prime the model with a bone spray like Wraithbone, then paint over it with Ionrach skin to get the right colour. I wanted the eyes to feel a bit darker this time, otherwise I would have done a third highlight, with either Lumineth Orange or maybe Pink Horror. I felt like the red already stood out enough by then though. On another note, that mistake with the red near the eye was cleaned up pretty well. I can't see where I went over it anymore. As I mentioned at the start of the video, this chapter was requested by one of you guys. I hope you liked the result. If you have any suggestions, recommendations or questions even, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. Anyway, that's all I got for this video. I hope you stick around for the next one.